Hello there, good evening and welcome. From Cairo to Europe, the map of global power is being redrawn. In one part of the world, Egypt's long-term economic ambitions are being validated by global institutions, forecasting a new era of prosperity and influence. In another, Russia's nuclear rhetoric intensifies, testing the nerves of an unstable peace in Europe. Tonight, we explore both frontiers. Egypt's strategic ascent towards the top 10 economies by 2075, and the renewed nuclear brinkmanship defining Russia's war posture under Putin. I'm Mark Summers, and this is In Focus. Welcome to the program. Goldman Sachs projects Egypt to rank among the world's 10 largest economies by 2075, with a GDP of over $10 trillion, overtaking industrial powers like Germany and Mexico. The report credits Egypt's strategic location, infrastructure transformation, and reform momentum in energy, transport, and services as key growth drivers. It highlights that Cairo's National Economic Development Narrative, launched in September, seeks 7% GDP growth and 1.5 million new jobs by 2030, prioritizing energy, agriculture, tourism, manufacturing, and ICT. Recent confidence from global agencies reinforces this vision. S&P Global upgraded Egypt's rating for the first time in 7 years, while Fitch maintained its stable outlook, citing stronger reserves. Yet Goldman Sachs warns that water scarcity and skills development remain critical challenges. Without long-term investment in sustainability and human capital, Egypt's ascent could stall before reaching its full potential. The report places Egypt alongside emerging powers like China, India, Indonesia, Pakistan, and Nigeria in a reshaped global order, where the old industrial core gives way to new regional champions. And now to talk this through with us, we are joined from Cairo by the specialist in strategic affairs and military economics, Brigadier General Dr. Tariq El-Akari. Thank you very much for being here with us on Q News. So Egypt today stands at the intersection of multiple regional conflicts while sustaining one of the Middle East's largest defense economies. How do you think the country can balance its growing role in a war-torn region with the ambition of becoming a global economic powerhouse?
Good evening for you and for others. Yes, true. Egypt has all factors that and pillars that walking through a big economic country by being a very strong mediator with influencing power on parties around, and by the geopolitical threats we had, and by Gaza war stop, that all these factors are driving us to be a better and a good economic country in future. However, that without power, without military, without weapons, without upgrading the weapons, without having an impact from outer commercial factors to provide a good military weapons and upgraded ones, we would never be a good mediator or a stronger mediator or strong mediator for stopping any wars around us. And you know that our place and geographical place in the world between Asia and Africa and Suez Canal and so on, all these put us in a very, very firing region. So I believe that the economy of Egypt and the balancing between stronger military and providing military with new weapons and technology with trained and professional people in the military, the first pillar that we can build on to have a good economy in future.
Yeah, and Goldman Sachs, this document that's been released, Goldman Sachs predicting Egypt will surpass Germany and Mexico by 2075. Do you think this is a realistic projection?
Yes, I think it's realistic, and I believe I believe that we would reach this stage before 2075 by far if we walk the same way with upgrading the logistics, upgrading the infrastructure, upgrading the maritimes. Egypt can rise more quickly than 2075. It's ranking now and delivers sustained capital accumulation and big gains with big gains. We have a lot of opportunities. We have a North Coast luxury tourism. We have Luxor, Aswan, and we have many outcomes can be maximized from having this long-term infrastructure upgrade and logistics upgrade. However, if we walk through the same productivity line we are walking through now with the support provided by training people, providing by having technology and having industrialization from the West to be in Egypt like now, and to be more attractive for foreign investment, and this will get us in this place before 2075, I believe.
And are there implications militarily, geopolitically, from these expected economic transformations?
Yes, as GDP and trade footprint grow, Egypt's geopolitical weight is really in a good position now. However, we are developing a lot of allies now, especially in energy, and we have a stronger leverage over regional maritime checkpoints. And Egypt now can afford modernization and local defense production with another allies, with Turkey like force, and with Korea, and we are diversifying more the inputs of the military industry to avoid any bargaining power from one single partner, especially in having weapons and having military tools. Its forces must shift, from purely territorial defense. We already moved from territorial defense to geographical defense. And I believe that in the future we are going to have more strategic partnerships with others in protecting the region.
And to what extent do you think that Egypt's strategic location between three continents has enhanced its global position?
Yes, it's a junction of Africa, Asia, Europe, and control the Suez Canal is the present comparative advantage. The trade routes, anchor trains, anchor transships, and logistics hubs, that all these are opportunities we can do around the Suez Canal and around the economic place of the Suez Canal, and the bargaining chip in border geopolitical constants. But the double factor in Egypt is the security. The workmanship is literally an opportunity for others to industrialize or to manufacture anything in Egypt now. Around all these logistics hubs, like maritimes, like Suez Canal, like the all new hubs we have in Egypt, around all these we can have an opportunities, and this will be more attractive for foreign investment. However, that we are the amount in the region. We are not a profit margin only. We are the amount. We are more than 100 million people. So anyone may manufacture anything in Egypt. The potential customer is among the 100 million and more. Apart from other small countries that having small population, that yes, they can have a better profit margin, a better gross margin, but they will never have an amount. You know that 5% in 1 million sales is better than 15% in 100.
And some analysts say that the economic gains and the economic rise must be matched by a military balance and also, of course, regional stability. How is Egypt aligning its defense capabilities alongside its economic ambitions?
Egypt is a big country, and the military of Egypt is ranking all over the world. Maybe it's 11th now. Without security, without the capability of protecting the borders, without capability of protecting the maritime, without capability of protecting Suez Canal, without capability of, without having a good air defense forces, a good air forces, and the mix of the military weapons, that nobody will come to you. If we have any kind of militias or another people having guns and having weapons inside the country, and the military cannot control this, nobody will come to you. The attraction of the foreign investment 1 and 2 and 3 is the security. The attraction of the foreign investment is that the borderline are controlled, and the country is having all control and all the control within the country. So the balance between military and the balance, the economy is one, I think, is one unit. No good economy without good military, or without ranked military, or without professional military that can control and protect the whole borders.
Now, Dr. Al-Akari, the report also highlights risks such as water scarcity, or also skills shortages, and not training up people with the right skills. Are you worried by these elements?
Yes, about water scarcity, I'm not worried at all. We were having a conflict with the other party with the years of the filling years time, and I think they did not achieve what they said. And nowadays we are in good position. They already filled the dam within more than 7 years. The problem maybe in the future that the floods are not in Nile River. The floods are not as for now, and this is another story. Could be managed, but Egypt has solutions from 1 to infinity. We have starting from diplomatic solutions, negotiation solutions to infinity, and you can say what you say in this issue, especially the word infinity. But about caliber, you know that the Egyptian people are very clever people, and they are flattered from anybody they work from, especially in when they travel abroad. And the Egyptian employee, or the Egyptian workman, is really a good one, and he can gain knowledge, and his behavior is really upgraded in a very fast track. And this is we have this in the whole fast track projects we have in New Capital Administration and North Coast. You know that we have a success story in these areas for the fast track projects. In 1 year and 1.5 years, we are building more than 40 floors, a building, and with multiple industries inside this building. Most of them were 80%, 60 to 80% local material. And we have some projects in Egypt. It was with no reference, like Adli Mansour Hub, like the CPD in New Capital Administration. So I never lost the trust in the Egyptian worker, or the Egyptian engineer, and the Egyptian designer, and the Egyptian manufacturer.
And as global power shifts towards the global south, do you think Egypt can make itself the strategic hub?
Yes, we are a strategic hub for now. And we put a great anchor with Cyprus for the energy, and we are working through the green energy and working through different industries that could be attractive for the European people and foreign investment overall. Also the economic reforms we have, and the economic luxury tourism we have in the North Coast and the upgrade in logistics, as I said, and subsidizing the exports. All these factors are giving us in future the economic resilience that we were not good in it in the past 10 years, but now we have, I think, a good reserves with a good economy resilience approach.
Well, thank you very much, Brigadier General Dr. Tariq El-Akari. Thank you so much for being with us here on Q News. It's very good to have you on the program. Now, as Egypt charts its path towards economic dominance, other parts of the world face the grim arithmetic of war. From the promise of growth to the peril of escalation. We now turn to Eastern Europe, where Russia's latest nuclear-powered missile test and the collapse of a Trump-Putin summit rekindled fears of a new Cold War. Russia's top general has confirmed the successful test of a nuclear-powered cruise missile, the Bereznik, boasting a flight of 14,000 kilometers over 15 hours, an unprecedented range that Moscow claims makes it invincible to Western missile defenses. The announcement comes amid heightened tensions. Donald Trump cancelled his planned Budapest summit with Vladimir Putin, insisting he won't meet the Russian leader until a Ukraine peace deal is realistically on the table. Meanwhile, Russia's investment envoy, Kirill Dmitriev, is in the U.S. for talks, denouncing titanic attempts to disrupt dialogue, even as Washington imposes new sanctions on Moscow's top oil firms. On the ground, Russia continues its relentless strikes on Kyiv, over 100 drones and 50 missiles in a single night, killing civilians, including children. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky renewed his plea for synchronized G7 sanctions, warning that Moscow's attacks on civilian life are part of a deliberate strategy to exhaust the country. The Burevestnik test adds a dangerous dimension to this stalemate, a symbolic show of force amid diplomatic deadlock, and a reminder that the nuclear age's shadows still loom large over Europe. And now we are joined by Dr. Donald Jensen, Associate Fellow at the Gino Germani Institute and Adjunct Professor at Johns Hopkins University. Thank you very much for being here with us.
Well, thank you for having me.
Is it Dr. Jensen or Jensen?
It depends on what country you're in. I'm Danish American.
We'll go with Jensen, shall we, for now?
That's fine with me.
Now, Russia's test of a nuclear-powered missile feels a little bit like Cold War déjà vu. What do you think the messages that Moscow is trying to send here?
Well, the bottom line on all of this, and you summarized it quite accurately, is that Russia is on the back foot. Putin is taking both diplomatic and military setbacks on the ground, and he has responded by, as you say, reinvoking the ghosts of the Cold War and bringing up this, testing this Burevestnik cruise missile today is a good example. There have been many others the past week or two where Putin rattles the nuclear saber to show that Russia is still a great power, despite its disappointments in recent weeks that Russia can strike the West and other countries. The problem is that that's not entirely convincing because no weapon is, in the case of the cruise missile you mentioned, no weapon is invincible. That missile has failed 17 out of its 20 tests, including the one today, and that missile is run by nuclear power, which is going to spray nuclear radiation all over wherever it travels. And someone called it a flying Chernobyl. So Putin can say all he wants, but the fact is that all of these things that you talked about reflect that Russia is on the back foot. Putin is not happy, clearly, and he's responding by attacking Ukrainian civilians, by threatening nuclear weaponry that he says is going to work well, and all the other things you mentioned. And the fact of the matter is that his room for maneuver, especially after Trump increased the sanctions this week, is diminished somewhat, and he's nervous. He's nervous, very clearly.
Yeah, I mean, you say that Putin will say the Burevestnik will work well. Some experts doubt the strategic utility of it and suggest it's more political theater. What do you think?
I think that's quite true. I go with what you say. It's political theater. This is a weapon which has not worked most of its tests. Yeah, Putin claims it's invincible, but there's nothing invincible. And as Putin said today in the press, the virtue of the Burevestnik is supposed to be that it can fly anywhere for a long time, but it goes lower than the speed of sound, and that means that when you fly all over the place, less than hypersonic or less than supersonic, it can be shot down. No weapon is invincible. I think Putin knows that. Certainly, Gerasimov, the chief of staff, knows that as well. If I could add one little fact here, one of the troubling things is that sometimes you wonder if Putin is getting the right information. Gerasimov, the chief of staff, bragged in the Russian press about how the Russian troops are surrounding Ukrainian forces in the town of Pokrovsk, and that's simply not true by Western standards. In fact, the opposite is true, which is that Russian troops are surrounded in that particular town, and Putin has taken 14 months to try to get it. He still doesn't control the whole town, yet he demands the rest of Donbass and Lugansk in eastern Ukraine. He demands it as part of his negotiating position. But who's going to give him something he doesn't even control, nor is close to controlling? And that's simply a ridiculous assertion.
Yes, and telling Putin news he doesn't want to hear can be a very dangerous role, I think. Trump cancelled his meeting with Putin, saying he won't waste time without a viable peace plan. How do you see how things are between Trump and Putin at the moment?
Well, I can't speak to their personal friendship, but let's go right to the facts as we see them, which is to say, Trump has obviously zigzagged over this first year of his administration about Russia, but I think I take him at his word that he expected the Russians, as they talked about 2 weeks ago, to come to the table with serious willingness to compromise, and that begins with a ceasefire and troops frozen in place. And of course, if you have a ceasefire with troops where they are right now, Putin falls automatically short of his war goals. So Putin did not want to talk about it. Maybe they'll do it later. Maybe they will do it sooner, maybe later. But either way, Putin is not getting what he wants in the negotiating table. If I could add a couple more points here, one of which is that I think he hopes that Trump will reverse course again, first of all. Second, I hope that he tries still, I think, to separate Trump from the European partners. And the European partners and the U.S. president have recently, certainly in the last month or two, worked together very well. But you mentioned correctly that, let's call it Putin's money guy, Kirill Dmitriev, who's a special envoy for the Kremlin, is in the U.S. this week. He very much is. And so even as Putin threatens war, Putin also wants to make land deals, has Dmitriev here talking to various U.S. businesses and companies and administration officials in the hope that he can get Trump to pack back another direction and talk about a deal with commercial opportunities attached to that deal. That's what Putin is having to do, and it's going in different directions at once, partly because he's trying to explore all possibilities to get what he wants. Putin sees negotiations as a means to get victory. It's not. Putin doesn't believe in win-win. Putin believes in they win and the West loses. Or if both sides lose, he wants to make sure that the U.S., especially Europe, and above all Ukraine, lose more than the Russians do. So we're a long way from a peace deal here. But without playing ball with what Trump wants, Putin is put in a corner now, waiting to see if Trump will impose. He has imposed sanctions, but Trump could do other things as well, one of which would be to upgrade the Ukraine military capabilities by giving them the Tomahawk missiles that Zelensky has talked about so much in the past 2 weeks.
Now, you mentioned there the Trump administration working very well with Europe the last few months. This must be quite annoying to President Putin, who was very much hoping to drive a wedge between the United States and Europe.
Absolutely. Excellent question. Yes, it infuriates them because he had thought a year ago, let's say 9 months ago, that Trump would be much more sympathetic to Russia's demands. And indeed, a few people, by their public statements in the administration, appear to be that. But that's not the U.S. position. The The U.S. position is what Trump decides, and Trump is increasing the sanctions. Trump has approved that deal where we sell weaponry to NATO, who then gives it to Israel, sells it to Israel. This is a big difference from, say, February, when you all remember that horrible public event in the White House where the Vice President Trump got after Zelensky for what he was wearing. You probably remember that. Things
Indeed.
have gone a long way. Things have come a long way in this short period of time, and that long way has been away from the Kremlin position. So Putin is now having to reassess how he approaches the Ukraine problem, the war, because Putin is not budged at all from his initial war demands of February 2022. He wants Ukraine to be subservient to Moscow, and one way to do that, he thinks, is to increase the attacks on Eastern Europe. The threats, the overflights, the Baltic, the Shadow Fleet in the Baltic Sea, which illegally transports Russian energy to customers under shadowy licensed ships. All of that are attempts for him to get around what seems to be, at the moment, it could change, but at the moment at least, the momentum going against what he wants. If I could add one more point, the Gaza peace deal, again, pushes Russia out of a region where it was a major player until relatively recently. President Trump's deal is a deal. Trump likes deals. He likes deals when the U.S. comes out well. He supports, per the agreement, the right of the Palestinians to develop their own state, the right of both sides to try to work together. And this has really been disappointing for Putin because Russia now is trying to beg the Syrians to come back to their ports. Russia is now embracing Iran more tightly when, in fact, Iran is weaker than it has been in many years. And Trump is now dealing with the Gulf states, the Arab Gulf states, in a very constructive way, and that's one of the reasons why the deal, at least on paper so far, has been achieved.
Let's talk about sanctions for a moment. These new sanctions from the EU and potential sanctions from the United States as well. Russia, the Kremlin is saying these don't really affect us, and they're going to hurt Europe more than they hurt Russia. Do you think that's true?
It's not true at all. Russia has coped with sanctions largely by seeking markets like China and India that would buy Russian oil, illegally or legally. That's a separate discussion. And as you probably know, India was a not primary importer of Russian oil before the war, and now they are. And Trump has leaned on Modi heavily. Come to an understanding that they cannot continue to buy Russian oil as they have since the war began. I think Modi gets the message. But what you see this week, and it's a very important development, is that Trump has sanctioned Russian companies for the first time in this administration. Rosneft and Lukoil are major Russian producers and exporters of oil. Previous to these sanctions announced this week, the United States has squeezed China and India much more. But now Trump has gone back to making Russia itself and these companies and their subsidiaries a major target. This means the 30 or so companies that are subsidiaries, banks who deal with Lukoil, banks who deal with Rosneft, these are now subject to sanctions. And as you see, since the middle of the week, the flow of money has changed significantly because a lot of Chinese banks, a lot of Indian banks don't want to get slapped with sanctions by the U.S. Well, even though they have gotten away with it, that is to say, subsidizing the Russian oil and energy industry for the past couple of years. So now Putin has this worry to deal with as well. Now, I'm sure they're going to continue to cheat. I'm sure they're going to continue to use shadow fleets to transport Russia under the table, let's call it, to transport Russian energy to various customers outside the Russian Federation. But it's going to be much harder now, and Trump and the Europeans can go further. And the UK, as you probably saw, the EU, the Swedes, all of whom have gotten much more detailed and cracking down and trying to get these other companies, let's call them indirect violators of the sanctions policy, to back off from supporting the Russian war effort.
Okay. We've got less than a minute left. Let me just ask you this, if you can, briefly. what are the prospects then for any peace initiative in the coming months?
Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. I think we're going to see this war go into 2026. Both sides are suffering mightily. Russia has lost more than 1 million people. The Ukrainians also have suffered heavily. You see Russia bombing Ukrainian hospitals and children's hospitals and apartment buildings. This is going to go on through the cold winter with an outcome yet to be determined. And as President Trump said, for him and for Zelensky, the first step would be a ceasefire. And they sit at the table and talk about where all of this horrible violence is going.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Donald Jensen in America, Jensen in Europe. Thank you very much for joining us here on the program. It's very nice to talk to you. Thank you very much indeed. From Egypt's projected economic ascent to the renewed arms race, perhaps, in Europe, the message is clear. The next 50 years will not be shaped by the same powers or the same rules. The global order is shifting, and so is the balance between prosperity and peril. This was In Focus. Good night.